Don Alessio De Luca was a man who controlled New York with a whisper and a wire transfer. He had judges in his pocket, senators on speed dial, and an empire built on fear and respect. But the one thing he didn't have was a clue that his own wife had just activated the signal that would end his reign and his life. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. He was supposed to still be negotiating with the Bratva in Brighton Beach. But when he walked through his front door 3 hours early, the silence was deafening. He expected champagne and dim lights. Instead, he found Yelena, the Russian chef he'd hired to impress his wife's friends, standing in the darkened hallway with her finger pressed to her lips. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She leaned close and whispered 5 words in Russian that saved his life. Ona prodala tebia. Oni eyed it. She sold you. They're coming. What Alessio saw next, through the crack in his own bedroom door, didn't just break his heart. It shattered everything he thought he knew about power, loyalty, and the woman he'd married. To continue, please smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop your comments if you want more stories. The rain in New York didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime glisten. Alessio De Luca watched the wipers slap against the windshield of his black Maserati Quattroporte. He was alone, a rarity for the head of the De Luca crime family. Usually he traveled with a convoy, a wall of muscle and Kevlar. But tonight was different. Tonight was about exhaustion. He had told everyone, including his wife Brielle and his underboss Marco, that the Bratva negotiations would take until midnight. But the deal with Dimitri's lieutenants had collapsed within 2 hours. Disgusted and drained, Alessio had walked out, bypassing his security detail waiting in the parking garage. He wanted the one thing his money usually couldn't buy: peace. He pulled up to the iron gates of the De Luca estate. The gates recognized his transponder and swung open silently. The driveway was a long ribbon of wet cobblestone winding through imported Italian cypresses. The mansion loomed ahead, a neoclassical monument of white marble and brass, glowing like a jewel box against the stormy sky. Alessio parked around the side near the service entrance, avoiding the circular gravel drive. He wanted to surprise Brielle. They had been distant lately. Her complaints about his hours, the danger, his obsession with control. He had bought her a Cartier bracelet in Moscow last month, a peace offering. He touched the velvet box in his suit pocket as he killed the engine. The house was wrong. That was the first thing he noticed. The lights were dimmed incorrectly. Not the warm golden glow Brielle insisted on for entertaining, but a dim, reddish emergency lighting he'd never seen activated. It was only 9 p.m. The staff should still be working. The ground floor should be alive with movement. Alessio unlocked the service door with his key. The heavy steel door, disguised as mahogany, swung inward without a sound. He paid a security consultant specifically to maintain every mechanism in this house monthly. He stepped into the butler's pantry, shaking rain from his coat. The smell of the house hit him wrong. The usual blend of Brielle's rose diffusers and the faint scent of lemon oil from the daily cleaning was there, but underneath it, something else. Something chemical. Cordite? No, couldn't be. He was paranoid. He moved through the kitchen. Empty. The Carrara marble countertops gleamed under the dim lighting, but there was no prep for dinner, no staff cleaning up. The silence pressed against his ears like cotton. Where was Katia, the housekeeper? Where was Bernard, the butler who never left before 10 p.m.? Where was the security team that was supposed to be monitoring the interior cameras? A cold prickle of instinct danced down his spine. It was the same feeling he'd had in a Brooklyn warehouse in 2019, right before a rival family tried to put 3 bullets in his chest. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, pregnant with danger. Alessio loosened his tie and unbuttoned his suit jacket, his hand instinctively hovering near the Beretta 92 FS holstered under his left arm. His father had taught him, "Trust your gut, Alessio. It knows when the wolves are circling." He walked softly, his Italian leather Oxfords making no sound on the heated marble floors of the hallway leading to the grand foyer. The house felt like a museum after hours, beautiful, empty, waiting. He turned the corner into the entrance hall and froze. A figure stood in the shadows beneath the curved staircase. Alessio's hand snapped to his weapon, drawing it in a blur of motion honed by 20 years of survival. "Don't move," he hissed, his voice dropping to the deadly quiet his enemies feared. The figure gasped, stepping into the sliver of moonlight filtering through the transom window above the entrance. It was Yelena, the chef. She was young, perhaps 26, with pale skin, sharp Slavic cheekbones, and ice-blue eyes that caught the light like mirrors. Her white chef's uniform was pristine except for a small dark stain near the collar. Wine? Blood. Her hair was pulled back under the traditional toque, but strands had escaped, framing her face in disarray. She was clutching a chef's knife in her right hand, knuckles white, blade pointed at the floor. Alessio lowered the gun slightly, but didn't holster it. He knew everyone who worked in his house, but Yelena was relatively new. Hired maybe 3 months ago on Brielle's insistence. "She's trained at Le Cordon Bleu, darling. My friends will be so impressed." She was quiet, efficient, and usually invisible in the way good staff should be. But tonight, she was anything but invisible. "Yelena," Alessio said, his voice a low rumble edged with suspicion. "Where is everyone? Why are the lights off?" Yelena didn't answer immediately. Her eyes darted from his face to the top of the stairs, then back to him, then to the closed double doors of his study, then to the hallway leading to the master bedroom wing. She was trembling so violently he could see it even in the dim light. But her eyes were calculating, not panicked. This wasn't the trembling of a frightened servant. This was controlled fear. Strategic fear. "Mr. DeLuca," she breathed, her accent thicker than usual, Russian consonants sharp as glass. You're supposed to be in Brighton Beach, with the Bratva, until midnight." "Plans changed," Alessio said, taking a step forward, his gun still trained on center mass. "Old habits. The negotiations collapsed. Where is my wife? Where is Marco? Where is the security team?" Yelena's eyes went impossibly wide. For a fraction of a second, she looked like she might bolt. Every muscle in her body coiled like a spring. Then she made a decision. She took a frantic step toward him, abandoning all protocol, all the careful distance between employer and staff. She reached out, her cold hand grabbing his expensive Brioni lapel, pulling him with surprising strength into the alcove beneath the grand staircase. The same alcove where a Caravaggio reproduction hung, where guests removed their coats, where no one would see them from the upstairs hallway. "Hey!" Alessio began, annoyed, his free hand moving to break her grip. Yelena hissed, one finger across her lips, gesturing "don't talk." The sound sharp like a whip crack, like the warning of a mother to a child about to step into traffic. She looked terrified, tears welling in her pale eyes, her breath coming fast, but her gaze locked onto his with an intensity that stopped him cold. She pressed her index finger to her lips, the universal gesture of silence, her eyes pleading with him in a way that transcended language. "Please, sir," her expression screamed. "Not a word. Trust me." Alessio frowned, his annoyance warring with his instincts. He was Don Alessio DeLuca. No one grabbed him. No one shushed him. No one dared to. But the terror in her eyes was genuine. This wasn't theater. This wasn't a joke. This was the fear of someone who had seen death and recognized its approach. "Why?" he whispered, leaning in close enough to smell her. Not perfume, but flower and herbs, and underneath it, the sharp tang of adrenaline. His gun was still in his hand, pressed between their bodies now, the safety off. Yelena didn't answer with words. Instead, she raised her free hand and pointed a shaking finger upward. Past the chandelier, past the second-floor landing, toward the closed double doors of the master bedroom at the end of the hall. Then she leaned even closer, close enough that her lips nearly brushed his ear, close enough that he could feel the tremor running through her entire body, and she whispered in Russian, the language of secrets, the language his grandmother had spoken, the language he understood but rarely spoke. "Ona prodala tebia. Oni idit. She sold you. They're coming." The words hit Alessio like a physical blow. His breath caught. His mind raced through possibilities. Betrayal, coup, rival families, FBI, Bratva retaliation, but none of it made sense. Brielle, his wife, sold him. "What are you?" he started to say, but Yelena clamped her hand over his mouth. Her palm was calloused, a chef's hands knife-scarred, but her grip was iron. She shook her head violently, tears now streaming down her face, and pointed again toward the bedroom. Then, with her other hand, she pulled a smartphone from her chef's coat pocket and turned the screen toward him. It showed a live security feed, one of his own cameras, but accessed from an unauthorized device. The image was of the exterior of the house. Black SUVs with tinted windows were parked in a perimeter around the property, barely visible through the trees. Men in tactical gear were taking positions. 30 of them, maybe more. They weren't his men. The uniforms were wrong. The formation was wrong. And on their tactical vests, clearly visible even in the grainy night vision footage, were 3 letters in reflective tape: FBI. Alessio felt the blood drain from his face. His hand tightened on the golden beretta. He looked at Yelena, 1,000 questions in his eyes, but she was already moving. She tapped the screen, swiped to another camera angle. This one showed the interior hallway upstairs, the hallway leading to his bedroom. The bedroom door was closed, but light spilled from underneath. And silhouetted in that light, moving back and forth like predators pacing, were 2 figures. Alessio recognized them instantly. One was Marco Vitali, his underboss, his oldest friend, the man who'd been at his father's funeral, the man who was supposed to be in Brooklyn tonight, handling a shipment. The other was Brielle, his wife, wearing not the silk dress he'd left her in this morning, but tactical pants and a fitted black shirt, her hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. And on the bed, clearly visible even through the partially open door, were FBI tactical vests, raid plans, weapons being loaded. Alessio's heart didn't just break. It stopped. Yelena pulled him deeper into the shadows as voices drifted down from upstairs, muffled by distance and the heavy doors, but audible in the pregnant silence of the house. Marco's voice. Timeline, Brielle. If the plane lands and he doesn't check in at the hotel, his contacts will start making calls. Brielle's voice, not the soft, cultured tone she used with him, but sharp, professional, cold. Relax. The pilot confirmed he's still in Brighton Beach. Dimitri's people are keeping him talking. We have at least 2 hours before he heads home. A third voicemail, unfamiliar. Once DeLuca enters the house, we breach. All exits covered. Vitali, you take him alive. The director wants him to see the whole operation fall before we read him his rights. Alessio's vision tunneled. His lungs forgot how to work. They were waiting for him. This was a trap. His home, his sanctuary, had become his execution chamber. And Brielle was FBI. Yelena's hand on his arm brought him back. She was staring at him with those ice-blue eyes, and in them he saw not pity, but understanding. She knew this feeling. She knew betrayal. She leaned close again and whispered, barely audible. 60 seconds. Maybe less. They have thermal cameras. They'll know you're in the house soon. There's a way out. Trust me. Trust her. He didn't even know her real last name. She was a chef. A servant. The bedroom door upstairs opened with a soft click. Marco's voice, louder now, calling down. Brielle, did you hear something? Is someone downstairs? Alessio looked at Yelena. At the Russian chef who somehow had his security feeds on her phone, who knew about the FBI, who was offering him escape when escape should be impossible. She was either his only chance at survival or the final piece of the trap closing around him. He had 3 seconds to decide. Yelena's finger was still pressed to her lips, but now she extended her other hand toward him. Palm up, offering. Footsteps at the top of the stairs. Heavy boots. Multiple sets. The countdown had begun. Alessio DeLuca, the man who controlled New York, who trusted no one, who built his empire on calculated risk and violent certainty, made the most irrational decision of his life. He took the Russian chef's hand and let her lead him into the darkness. Yelena moved like smoke through his own house, leading Alessio through passages he'd walked 1,000 times but never truly seen. She didn't head for the obvious exits, the front door, the garage, the terrace. Instead, she pulled him toward the kitchen, past the sub-zero refrigerators and the 8-burner range, where she'd prepared countless meals for Brielle's dinner parties. Where are we? Alessio started, but she silenced him with a look that could freeze vodka. The footsteps upstairs grew louder. Marco's voice. thermals picking up 2 signatures on the ground floor. Southwest corner. Kitchen area. He's home, Brielle said, her voice sharp with command. All units, breach in 30 seconds. Vitali with me. Yelena dropped to her knees beside the industrial dishwasher, her fingers finding a seam in the marble baseboard that Alessio had never noticed. She pressed, twisted, and a section of the wall swung inward with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. A service tunnel. Prohibition era, probably. The house was built in 1923. To continue, please smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop your comments if you want more stories. How did you? Alessio began. I read blueprints when I can't sleep, Yelena whispered, shoving him toward the opening. Old houses always have secrets. Now move or we both die here. Behind them, the sound of boots thundering down the main staircase. Flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Voices shouting. FBI. Alessio De Luca, show yourself. Alessio ducked into the tunnel. Yelena followed, pulling the panel shut behind them with a soft click. The darkness was absolute, pressing against his face like a burial shroud. He felt Yelena's hand find his in the blackness, surprisingly warm, surprisingly steady, and pull him forward down steps that smelled of old stone and rat poison. Quietly, she breathed against his ear. They'll scan with thermal, but these walls are 3 feet of limestone and lead lining. Bootleggers built them to hide from federal raids. Ironic, yes? Above them, muffled by stone, came the sound of the kitchen door being kicked in. Men shouting. Brielle's voice, cold and professional. Clear the ground floor. He's here somewhere. I can feel it. Alessio's chest felt like it was caving in. His wife, commanding federal agents in his own home. How long have you known? He whispered as they descended. Yelena's hand tightened on his. 3 months. Since the day I started working here. Since the day I recognized Agent Sarah Dawson from the file I've been building for 3 years. Who the hell are you? In the darkness, her voice was cold as Moscow winter. Someone else who was betrayed by the FBI. Someone else who wants revenge. And right now, Don De Luca, I'm the only person in this city who wants you alive. They reached the bottom of the stairs. Yelena clicked on a penlight, its beam revealing a brick tunnel stretching into blackness, old, crumbling, but passable. From above came a new sound, a battering ram hitting the kitchen wall. They found the panel, Yelena said. We have 2 minutes before they breach it. This tunnel runs 4 blocks to an old speakeasy basement under a bookstore. Can you run? Alessio looked at this woman. This Russian chef who had hidden passages and FBI files and secrets written in her pale eyes. This stranger who just saved his life while his wife of 18 months prepared to destroy it. Can you? He asked. She smiled, a sharp, dangerous expression that looked nothing like the quiet servant who'd prepared his ossobuco. I'm Yelena Sokolov, daughter of Dmitri. We don't walk, Mr. De Luca. We hunt. Behind them, the panel exploded inward. Flashlight beams pierced the tunnel. Voices echoing. Suspects fleeing. East tunnel. Go, go, go. Yelena killed the penlight and ran. Alessio, the man who controlled New York, followed a Russian ghost into the darkness beneath his own city. Toward answers, toward war, toward a truth that would burn his entire world to ash. The game had changed. The king was in check, and the woman who'd whispered the warning was the only piece left on the board he could trust. The tunnel ended at a rusted ladder climbing into darkness. Yelena went up first, silent as a cat. Alessio followed, his shoulders screaming as he hauled himself through a trapdoor onto a tar paper roof. Rain hit his face like needles. The Manhattan skyline spread before them, buildings pressed together like teeth. Behind them, the De Luca mansion erupted. Flashbangs turning windows white, the percussion rattling his chest even 3 blocks away. They're clearing every room, Yelena said, already moving across the wet rooftop toward the neighboring building. In 30 seconds they'll realize we're gone. Then they send the helicopter. How do you know they're? The crack of a rifle cut him off. The metal vent beside Alessio's head sparked, bullet whining into the night. Down! Yelena yanked him behind an HVAC unit as another shot punched through the sheet metal inches from his skull. Alessio looked back. 3 rooftops away, silhouetted against the mansion's floodlights, stood a figure with a rifle. Even at this distance, he recognized the stance. Marco. His brother. His Judas. Move. Yelena sprinted for the edge, jumped the 4-foot gap to the next building without breaking stride. Alessio followed. His Italian loafers slipped on wet tar, but he made it across. Another shot closer. Marco was advancing, using rooftop equipment as cover, firing methodically. They ran, building to building, jumping gaps, sliding down rain-slicked slopes. Alessio's lungs burned. His suit jacket was soaked through, weighing him down. The gap to the next building was wider. 12 feet, maybe 15. We have to jump, Yelena said. That's suicide. Marco's bullet took him high in the left shoulder, spinning him. The impact felt like a sledgehammer. Hot blood soaked his shirt. Jump or die. Yelena grabbed his good arm and ran, dragging him. They launched together into empty air, rain and city lights blurring. Alessio's injured shoulder screamed. They weren't going to make it. His chest hit the opposite ledge, knocking the wind out. Yelena caught his collar, hauling with strength that shouldn't exist in her frame. They tumbled onto the roof as Marco's next shot sparked where they'd been. Keep moving, she gasped. 3 more buildings. Ahead, a glass pyramid skylight glowed with interior light. An art gallery. Through there. Yelena ran, pulling her chef's knife. You're insane. She didn't slow. At the last second she turned, hit the glass feet first in a controlled slide. The skylight shattered in a cascade of diamonds. They fell 15 feet into a room of sculptures and paintings. Alessio landed hard, his shoulder exploding in fresh agony. Yelena rolled, came up in a crouch, knife ready. Security alarms shrieked. Gallery lights blazed to life. And standing in the doorway, flanked by 4 men with guns, was a face Alessio had seen across negotiating tables for 20 years. Always as an enemy, never an ally. Don Salvatore Corleone, his biggest rival, smiled like a shark scenting blood. Alessio, Sal said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. Breaking and entering. How desperate. Though I must say, his eyes flicked to Yelena, taking in her chef's uniform and the knife in her hand. Your taste in accomplices has improved. Now, before my men put you down like a rabid dog, tell me, why is the FBI raiding your house? And more importantly, Sal's smile vanished, replaced by cold calculation. What do you know about the operations they're running against all 5 families? Sal's men zip-tied Alessio to a Louis XVI chair, while a gray-haired man in surgeon's gloves cut away his bloody shirt. The bullet had passed through, clean, painful, survivable. Yelena stood against the wall, Sal's gun trained on her chest. 3 years, she said, watching the doctor work. I've been investigating FBI corruption for 3 years. Your wife, Agent Sarah Dawson, she's not the first. There are plants in at least 4 families. Deep cover operatives married in, promoted from within, building cases from the inside. Why tell me this? Don Alessio hissed as the needle pierced his skin. Because my father. The gallery's front entrance exploded inward. Not FBI. Worse. 6 men in tactical black poured through the smoking doorway, speaking rapid Russian, Kalashnikovs raised. The lead man's face was scarred, eyes dead as winter. Yelena Sokolov, he roared. Predatelnitsa. Traitor. Yelena's face went corpse white. Bozhe moi, she breathed. They found me. Salvatore's men opened fire. The Bratva returned it. The gallery became a war zone. Priceless Rothkos shredded by bullets, a Giacometti sculpture decapitated by automatic fire. Alessio threw himself sideways, chair and all, as rounds punched through the upholstery where his head had been. Yelena moved like liquid death. She rolled, came up with a fallen guard's pistol, put 2 rounds through a Bratva soldier's throat. Her chef's uniform was gone, stripped away to reveal a tactical undershirt and the lean, scarred body of someone who'd survived hell. Dmitry Sokolov's daughter. Don Salvatore breathed, taking cover behind a marble column. You're supposed to be dead. So is he. Yelena shouted back, firing. FBI killed my father 3 years ago and framed it as a mob hit. They needed a crisis to justify their operation. The scarred Bratva leader charged through the chaos, bellowing in Russian. Yelena screamed back. Not in fear, but fury. The exchange was too fast for Alessio to follow, but he caught fragments. Liar. Murderer. Otets. Father. Then new voices from the shattered entrance. FBI. Weapons down. Marco led the breach team, Brielle at his shoulder. A three-way standoff, Bratva, FBI, and whatever desperate alliance Alessio had just stumbled into. Yelena Sokolov, Brielle said, weapon-trained. Or should I say, the ghost we've been hunting. Did you really think you could investigate us without consequences? You sent them, Yelena spat, gesturing at the Bratva. Tipped them off to eliminate the witness. Marco smiled. 2 birds. 1 art gallery. The Bratva leader raised his rifle. Alessio saw the future in slow motion. Yelena dead, him captured, the truth buried. His zip-tied hands found the sculpture stand beside him. Beneath it, duct-taped by paranoid Don Salvatore, was exactly what he'd hoped for, a shaped charge. Old-school mob insurance. Get down, Salvatore. Alessio roared. He yanked the charge free, hit the detonator. The explosion tore through the gallery's east wall. Brick, glass, and 19th-century oil paintings became shrapnel. Alessio felt the concussion lift him, chair and all, hurling him through the hole into the alley beyond. He hit concrete hard enough to see stars. Through ringing ears, he heard Yelena screaming his name, her hands cutting his restraints with that damned chef's knife. Can you run? She gasped, blood streaming from a cut above her eye. Behind them, through the smoke, shapes were moving. FBI. Bratva. Salvatore's survivors. All converging. Don Alessio pushed himself up on his good arm. His shoulder was bleeding again, his ribs screaming. Can you drive? She pulled keys from a dead guard's pocket. A black Audi RS7 parked 3 cars down. I'm Dmitry Sokolov's daughter, she said, that dangerous smile returning. I was drifting Moscow streets before you owned your first casino. They ran as the first bullets sparked off the alley walls behind them. Yelena drove like she was fleeing the devil himself, which Alessio reflected as another FBI sedan screamed around the corner behind them, wasn't far from the truth. The Audi's engine howled, the speedometer hitting 90 on city streets. Phone, she barked. Call your rival. Now. Alessio's hands shook as he dialed Don Salvatore's private number. 1 ring. 2. You blow up my gallery and now you want favors? Salvatore's voice was ice. Help me survive tonight, Alessio said, watching the FBI helicopter's searchlight sweep the avenue behind them. I'll give you everything. Every FBI operation, every mole, every planted agent across all 5 families. Because we're not the only targets. Silence. Then, meet me at the Queen's safe house. 47th and Vernon. You've got 20 minutes before I change my mind. The line went dead. Yelena yanked the wheel, the Audi drifting through a red light, narrowly missing a taxi. Behind them, 3 FBI vehicles and Marco's armored SUV gave chase. Above, the helicopter's spotlight found them, turning night to day. Your wife, Yelena said, her accent thick with adrenaline. She wasn't random. Agent Sarah Dawson was assigned to you 18 months ago. Seduction operation. Standard FBI deep cover protocol for organized crime infiltration. Don Alessio's world tilted. 18 months. We've been married. I know. Yelena swerved onto the Queensboro Bridge. Deputy Director Richard Moss approved it. Same man who ordered my father's execution. He's orchestrating this entire operation, creating crises, solving them, climbing the ladder on our corpses. Bullets sparked off the Audi's trunk. Marco's vehicle had closed the gap. Alessio twisted in his seat, smashed out the back window with his elbow, and returned fire with a pistol Yelena had handed him. His shots went wide. Shooting from a moving vehicle at 90 miles per hour was harder than movies made it look, but it forced Marco to back off. The helicopter descended, its downdraft rocking the car. Through the open door, Alessio saw a sniper taking position. They're going for the tires, he shouted. Yelena didn't slow. Instead, she accelerated, weaving between lanes like the car was an extension of her body. The sniper fired, missed. Fired again. The round punched through the side mirror. They screamed off the bridge into Queens, the safe house 3 blocks ahead. Behind them, the FBI convoy was closing. Above, the helicopter. No way out. Yelena looked at Alessio, her ice-blue eyes reflecting the searchlight. The garage. 2 blocks. Can you cover me? What are you? She didn't explain. Just floored it, aiming for a multi-level parking structure. They shot through the entrance doing 70, tires screaming on the concrete ramp, spiraling up. First level. Second. Third. At the top level, open to the sky, Yelena yanked the emergency brake. The Audi spun in a perfect 180 degrees, now facing the ramp they'd just climbed. Out, she commanded. They rolled from the vehicle as the FBI convoy roared up the ramp. The helicopter hovered above, searchlight blinding. Yelena pulled something from her pocket, a phone. 1 button press. The Audi exploded. Not a massive Hollywood fireball, but a shaped charge. The car lurched forward, rolled down the ramp, and collided with the lead FBI vehicle in a grinding crash of metal. The ramp blocked, the helicopter forced to pull up or crash. Run! Yelena grabbed Alessio's hand. They sprinted across the rooftop, jumped to the adjacent building. Only 6 feet manageable, and disappeared down a fire escape as the FBI scrambled to reorganize. Don Salvatore's safe house was a fortress disguised as a laundromat. They stumbled through the back in trance, bloody and gasping. The guard men patted them down, took their weapons. He waited in a windowless concrete room, drinking espresso like they hadn't just brought war to his doorstep. Sit, he said, and tell me everything about the FBI operation that's trying to destroy all of us. Because Alessio, Salvatore's expression was granite. If what you're saying is true, we're not enemies anymore. We're survivors. And survival means burning the bastards who tried to bury us alive. To continue, please smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop your comments if you want more stories. Don Salvatore's tech expert, a nervous kid named Paolo, set up 3 laptops on the concrete table. Yelena plugged in a thumb drive she'd kept hidden in her boot heel. Alessio accessed his home security system through a VPN, pulling footage from the last 6 months. Here, Yelena said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Brielle, Agent Dawson. She's been sending encrypted reports to Deputy Director Moss. I intercepted fragments. Financial transactions, meeting locations, family hierarchies. She was building a RICO case. Alessio watched the security footage of his own bedroom. Brielle on her laptop, late at night while he slept. Her face cold, professional. Nothing like the woman who'd shared his bed. Marco's communications, Salvatore growled, pointing at another screen. He's been FBI for 7 years. Worked his way up through your organization. Everything you told him went straight to federal prosecutors. The evidence was overwhelming. Moss ordering illegal surveillance. Marco coordinating with agents posing as rival family members. Brielle's mission briefing. Subject DeLuca is emotionally isolated. Exploit his need for connection. Marriage recommended for maximum access. Downloading everything, Paolo said. Uploading to 3 separate cloud servers as backup. This is enough to. Every screen went red. Madre di Dio, Paolo whispered. We triggered something. Spyware. She knew we'd access these files. She's been tracking. The compound's perimeter alarms screamed. Salvatore's radio crackled. Boss, we got vehicles. Dozens. Armored. FBI. They're surrounding. The lights cut out. Emergency reds kicked in. Through the reinforced windows, Alessio saw them. Armored FBI vehicles forming a perimeter, agents in tactical gear taking positions behind ballistic shields. Above, news helicopters circled, cameras broadcasting live. A loudspeaker boomed. This is the FBI. You are harboring a federal fugitive. Surrender Alessio DeLuca or we breach. They're making it a spectacle, Yelena hissed. The whole city watching. We're not suspects, we're terrorists. Salvatore grabbed a rifle from the wall. Paolo, keep uploading. The rest of you, defensive positions. They want a war. We give them one they'll regret. Gunfire erupted from the perimeter, his men engaging FBI advance teams. Flashbangs detonated, turning windows white. Tear gas canisters crashed through skylights. Alessio grabbed Yelena's arm. The tunnels. You said there were tunnels. Bootlegger escape routes, Salvatore confirmed, coughing through the gas. Northeast corner. But if we don't upload this evidence, Paolo stays, Yelena decided. Finishes the upload. We draw them off. Led them away. An armored vehicle rammed the compound's gate. The guard men opened fire with armor-piercing rounds. The battle had begun. Alessio, Yelena, and 2 of Salvatore's soldiers descended into the tunnels, narrow, brick-lined passages smelling of mold and ancient bootleg whiskey. Behind them, the compound shook with explosions. Yelena's phone showed the upload, 67% complete. They just needed to buy Paolo time. They emerged 3 blocks away in an abandoned warehouse. Yelena checked her phone. 89%. Then gunfire, from above. Rappelling through the warehouse skylights came tactical operators. Not FBI. Private contractors. Marco's personal kill team. The firefight was brutal, close quarters. Alessio emptied his magazine, dropped 2 operators. Yelena fought like a demon, her knife finding throats. Then Marco's voice amplified, echoing through the warehouse. Yelena Sokolov. I have something you want to see. On a tablet mounted to a support beam, a video feed appeared. Salvatore, wounded, zip-tied. Marco standing over him with a gun. Surface in 60 seconds, Marco said, or I execute him. Then I execute your tech boy Paolo. Then I burn the evidence. The upload hit 100%. But Salvatore was bleeding out. Yelena looked at Alessio. We go up, they take us. We don't, Salvatore dies. She closed her eyes, made the calculation that would haunt her. I go. You run. Get the evidence to someone who'll use it. Yelena. Go. She kissed him, fierce, desperate, then climbed toward the light. Alessio heard her surrender. Heard Marco's triumphant laugh. Heard the helicopter extraction. He ran through the tunnels with Salvatore's remaining men, carrying the truth in a thumb drive, leaving the woman who'd saved him in the hands of monsters. 36 hours later, Salvatore lay in a hospital bed in his nephew's apartment, the bullet removed but his face gray with pain. Alessio stood at the window, watching FBI vehicles cruise the street below, hunting. We don't even know where they took her, Alessio said, the words ashes in his mouth. We do, said Salvatore's nephew Vincent, 32 Marine Corps, 2 tours in Fallujah. He tapped a laptop. I've been tracking FBI dark site facilities for years. Homeland Security contract work. There are 3 in the tri-state area. 1 in New Jersey matches the helicopter's flight path. Former psychiatric hospital. Now a black site for witnesses they want to disappear before trial. Alessio turned. How many guards? 12 rotating shifts. Electronic perimeter. Guard towers. Designed to keep people in, not out. Vincent's smile was cold. But I know how to breach facilities like this. Question is, do you want to start a war with the federal government? They started it, Alessio said. We finish it. Vincent pulled up schematics. We go in tonight. 6 men. Suppress guard towers simultaneously. Breach east fence during shift change. 3 minutes to reach the holding cells before backup arrives. I'm coming, Alessio said. You can barely lift your arm. She saved my life twice. I'm coming. They assembled the team. Vincent, 4 of Salvatore's best soldiers, and Alessio. Weapons, body armor, comms. They looked like a military raid unit, which, Alessio reflected grimly, they were. The black site loomed in the darkness. Concrete and razor wire, isolated in the Jersey Pine Barrens. Vincent's countdown. Towers in 3, 2, 1, execute. Suppressed rifles coughed. 2 guards dropped. The team cut the fence, moved through the gap. Inside was a nightmare of concrete corridors and steel doors. They moved in formation, Vincent on point, clearing corners. They dropped guards silently, efficiently. Then Marco's voice over the facility PA. Hello, Alessio. Wondered when you'd show up. The corridors lit up with gunfire. FBI reinforcements poured from every entrance. Not 12 guards, but 30. A trap. Fall back. Vincent roared, returning fire. They fought through corridors slick with blood. Alessio took a round in his Kevlar. Felt like a mule kick, but the vest held. He kept moving, kept firing, following the schematic in his mind toward the detention cells. He found Yelena in a windowless room, chained to a steel chair. Her face was bruised, but her eyes burned with unbroken fury. Alessio, she breathed. You idiot. This is a trap, Marco said, stepping from the shadows with Brielle at his side. Obviously. Brielle looked at Alessio with something like pity. Did you really think we wouldn't anticipate a rescue attempt? We've been studying you for 18 months, darling. Here's what you don't know, Marco continued, pulling Brielle close. Agent Dawson and I, we're married. Have been for 8 years. She was assigned to seduce you. Sleep in your bed. Play the devoted wife. All while married to me. He kissed Brielle's cheek. Hell of an actress, isn't she? The words should have hurt. Instead, Alessio felt only cold clarity. Brielle had never been his. The marriage had been a performance. The evidence is uploaded, Alessio said. Every news station, every senator, every FBI field office has it by now. You've already lost. Marco's smile faltered. Brielle's eyes widened. Checkmate, Yelena whispered. Then the world exploded into gunfire as Vincent's team breached the room, and the final battle began. The firefight lasted 15 seconds before the south wall exploded inward. Not FBI. Not Salvatore's men. Bratva. The scarred assassin from the gallery led 6 heavily armed Russians through the breach, roaring in their native tongue. They weren't here for Alessio. They wanted Yelena, the traitor's daughter who'd survived when she should have died. Bozhe moi, Yelena breathed. They sent everyone. Then the north entrance detonated. More FBI, but these were different insignia. A silver-haired man in a suit stepped through the smoke, flanked by a dozen agents in black tactical gear. Deputy Director Moss, Brielle whispered, her face going white. Marco, he's not supposed to. Loose ends, Moss said coldly, raising a pistol. Agent Dawson, Agent Vitali, your operation has become a liability. You're both terminated. He fired. Marco shoved Brielle aside, took the round in his chest. Went down hard. Chaos erupted. Bratva attacking FBI. FBI attacking FBI. Sal's men returning fire from the corridors. The black site became a kill box, bullets ricocheting off concrete, bodies dropping, blood slicking the floors. Above it all, the thunder of helicopter rotors. News choppers circling, cameras broadcasting. Yelena grabbed Alessio's arm, pointed at the ceiling corners. See those? I planted cameras 3 days ago when they first brought me here. Wireless. Streaming to every major network, every FBI field office, every senator's secure phone. Her smile was pure vengeance. The whole world is watching, Moss. Every illegal order. Every murder. All of it. Live. Moss's face contorted with rage. Shut it down. Kill the feed. But there was no shutting it down. The truth was already spreading, viral, unstoppable, burning through the internet like wildfire. Brielle crawled to Marco, pressed her hands against his wound. You bastard. You said we'd walk away from this. You promised. Marco coughed blood. Promises are for civilians. We're ghosts, Brielle. We were always expendable. The Bratva assassin fought his way toward Yelena, cutting through FBI agents like wheat. Predatelnitsa. Your father's blood demands payment. Yelena stepped forward to meet him, knife in hand. Then take it from me, Dyadya. Uncle. But first, watch the screens. Watch what your precious Bratva brothers did. Watch who really killed my father. On every phone, every tablet, every screen in the facility, the evidence played. Security footage of FBI agents staging the scene of Dmitry Sokolov's death. Audio recordings of Moss ordering the hit. Financial records showing the Bureau framed it as mob violence to justify expanded operations. The Bratva assassin froze, watching his brother's murder revealed as federal conspiracy. Dmitry was innocent, Yelena said, tears streaming. They killed him because he refused to be their informant. Because he had honor. And you hunted his daughter for their lies. The assassin's rifle lowered. His scarred face crumpled. Moss screamed orders, but his men were backing away. They'd seen the footage. They knew they were on camera. Knew their careers, their lives, were over if they followed his commands now. Brielle stood, pulled a USB drive from her vest. I recorded everything too, Moss. Every illegal order you gave. Every threat. Insurance, I called it. Marco said I was paranoid. She looked at the dying man at her feet. Guess I was right. She threw the drive to Alessio. Let me walk. Give you Moss. Full testimony. Everything. Or, Yelena said coldly. She stands trial for 18 months of lies. For seducing you. For betraying everyone. Moss and her. Both accountable. The world watched. Waited for Alessio's choice. Alessio looked at Brielle. The woman who'd been his wife, his lover, his betrayer. 18 months of lies wrapped in silk sheets and false smiles. You want mercy? He said quietly. Earn it. Testify. All of it. Moss, Marco, every dirty agent. You burn it all down. Maybe you get witness protection instead of prison. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. Marco surged upright, weapon rising. Nobody testifies. Yelena's shot took him through the skull. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The gunshot echoed. Brielle screamed. Yelena lowered her weapon, smoke curling from the barrel, her face carved from ice. He would have killed you both, she said simply. Problem solved. Alessio stared at her. This woman who'd gone from frightened chef to avenging angel. She'd killed to protect him. Not for revenge. Not for her mission. For him. Salvatore's men secured Moss, zip-tied and bleeding from a leg wound. Vincent dragged him before the nearest camera. Richard Moss, Vincent announced to the world. Deputy Director, FBI. Murderer. Traitor. You're done. The Bratva assassin approached Yelena slowly, reverently. He dropped his weapon, fell to his knees. Prosty Menya, Yelena Dmitrievna. Forgive me. We were deceived. Your father's honor is restored. Yelena touched his scarred face gently. Go home, uncle. Tell them the truth. Tell them Dmitry Sokolov died with honor. Tell them his daughter survived to prove it. The Bratva soldiers withdrew, melting into the night like ghosts given absolution. FBI agents, real ones, not Moss's corrupted unit, poured in, badges raised, reading Miranda rights to their own director. The facility secured. The battle ended. Alessio found Yelena on the roof, watching the sunrise paint Manhattan gold. She'd cleaned the blood from her hands, but her chef's uniform was long gone, replaced with tactical gear that fit her like a second skin. You could have let him shoot me, Alessio said. Marco, you could have let him finish what Brielle started. Walked away clean. I could have, Yelena agreed. 3 years, all I wanted was revenge. Burn the FBI, burn the mob, burn everyone who took my father. She turned to him, those ice-blue eyes finally warm. But then a paranoid Italian boss took a chef's hand in the darkness. Trusted a stranger when every instinct screamed not to. And I realized, revenge is cold. But this, she gestured at the chaos below, the news helicopters, the arrested agents, the truth finally exposed. This is justice. And I don't have to die for it. What now? Alessio asked. Now. Yelena smiled, real, unguarded, devastating. Now I write the story. Every detail. Publish it. Make sure the world never forgets what happened here. And after, she took his hand, the same gesture from the darkened hallway, but this time not from fear, from choice. After, she said, we build something that doesn't require blood to hold together. Something honest. Something real. Below them, Brielle was led away in handcuffs, heading for a life of testimony and witness protection. Moss screamed threats that nobody believed anymore. The sun rose over a city that finally knew the truth. Alessio De Luca and Yelena Sokolov stood together on the roof, no longer boss and chef, no longer hunter and hunted. Just two people who'd survived the fire and refused to let it consume them. The old world was burning, but from its ashes they would build something better. The New York Times building glittered like a cathedral of glass and ambition. Inside the grand hall, 500 guests an evening were applauded as Yelena Sokolov accepted the Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism. She stood at the podium in a midnight blue gown, her platinum hair no longer hidden under a chef's toque, her pale eyes clear and unafraid. The book, Cooked, How the FBI Corrupted Justice from the Inside, had spent 14 weeks at number 1. 47 arrests. 3 congressional investigations. The entire FBI leadership restructured. This award belongs to the people who risked everything for truth, Yelena said, her Russian accent softened but never hidden. To those who chose justice over revenge. Who proved that honor isn't about the uniform you wear. It's about the choices you make when the world is burning around you. In the audience, Alessandro De Luca, No longer Don, just a man in a well-tailored suit, watched with quiet pride. Sentinel Securities business cards described him as CEO, corporate risk consultant, reformed former criminal. The truth was more complex, but truth always was. The ceremony ended. Guests flowed toward the reception. Alessandro slipped away to the terrace overlooking Manhattan's glittering sprawl. He was holding 2 champagne glasses when she found him. "You left before the photos," Yelena said, stepping beside him at the railing. The city lights reflected in her eyes like captured stars. "I've had enough cameras pointed at me for one lifetime," Alessandro said. He offered her a glass. "Though watching you accept that award, I'll admit it felt good. Seeing the truth win for once." She took the champagne, their fingers brushing. 6 months of rebuilding. 6 months of therapy, testimony, depositions. 6 months of learning to trust again, slowly, carefully, like survivors learning to walk on broken legs. "Brielle testified today," Yelena said quietly. "Final deposition. Witness protection starts tomorrow. She'll disappear. New name, new life." "Good," Alessandro said, and meant it. Not forgiveness. He wasn't sure he'd ever forgive the 18 months of lies. But acceptance. Brielle had kept her word. Testified against everyone. The conspiracy was exposed, burned to ash. "Do you miss it?" Yelena asked. "The power. The empire. Being Don DeLuca." Alessandro considered. Sentinel Security was legitimate. Teaching corporations how to protect against organized crime, consulting on security, using his knowledge for something other than violence. It was smaller, quieter, legal. "No," he said honestly. "That life was built on fear. People obeyed because they had to. This," he gestured at the glittering city. "People choose to work with me. That's worth more than any empire." To continue, please smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop your comments if you want more stories. Yelena smiled. That dangerous, devastating smile he'd first seen in a darkened hallway. "Pravda. Truth." She raised her glass. To survivors who became something better. They clinked crystal, the sound pure and clear. "Tajemny yesh dover. Yelena asked in Russian. "Still trust me?" Alessandro answered in Italian. "Con la mia vita." With my life. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in either of their lives, it felt like coming home. Not to a place, to a person. They'd been forged in fire. The chef and the king, the ghost and the dawn. They'd lost everything and built something real from the ashes. Not love, not yet. But trust. Partnership. 2 people who'd seen each other at their worst and chose to stay anyway. Below them, the city pulsed with life, corrupt and beautiful, dangerous and full of possibility. The same city that had tried to kill them now stretched at their feet, transformed. "What now?" Alessandro asked. Yelena looked up at him, those ice-blue eyes finally warm. "Now, we live. Honestly. Without masks. Without lies. We prove that people like us can change. That survival isn't the same as victory, but choosing truth is." She kissed him then, not desperate like in the warehouse, not fierce like before battle. Just honest. Real. When they pulled apart, the champagne was forgotten, the reception a distant murmur. "The waitress became the queen," Alessandro said softly, quoting the last line of her book. Yelena corrected him. "The chef became herself." And the king learned that power isn't about control. It's about who you trust when everything falls apart. They stood together on the balcony. 2 people transformed by fire into something neither had been before. Not innocent. Never that. But free. Free from lies. Free from the weight of empires built on fear. Free to build something that didn't require blood to hold together. The city lights glittered. The night was young. And for the first time in their lives, the future felt like a promise instead of a threat. They walked back inside together. Alessandro DeLuca and Yelena Sokolov, equals at last. Leaving the past on that balcony, turning toward a tomorrow they'd earned with truth. The world had tried to destroy them. They'd burned it down instead. And from the ashes, they'd built something beautiful.